Here on the ground, change happens fast. Problems feel frequent and urgent. It's loud and anxiety runs high. From a satellite view, the Earth looks the same as it did thousands of years ago. We've been here before. Let's learn from our past and shoot for a better future.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of A Satellite View. I'm Todd Mikkelson, your host, speaking at you from Sunday, November 9th, 2025 in the space and time continuum. And what a week we have had. The Republicans don't know what to do. They don't know how to react. They've made absolute fools of themselves in reaction to this last Tuesday's election night, where Democrats outperformed even the predictions of them outperforming in this election. It begs the question, what happened in 2024? More and more people are asking, what happened in 2024 if all elections since basically 2016, except a couple presidential elections, have been the Democrats overperforming more than they were predicted to overperform? Maybe we'll go into that a little bit. That's a pisser, but I want to take a little bit of time to celebrate. We need to have some fun this week. It's a little bit of a respite from the chaos. Zoran Mamdani ran on affordability, and then a bunch of other Democrats did as well. He calls himself a democratic socialist, and then you have Abigail Spanberger, who's in Virginia, and you have Mikey Sherrill, who ran in New Jersey for the governorships in both of those states, and they ran a little bit of a different campaign, but they still focused on affordability. These are different types of Democrats. So when Chuck Schumer, I'm here to say the Democratic Party is back. You're supposed to be cheering. Why does nobody ever cheer when I talk anymore? And Hakeem Jeffries saying, the Democratic Party is back. That's BS. You guys have not been the leaders of this party for this last year. You've failed. I'm more pissed off at Democratic leadership now than I've been in my whole life. They are following the actual leaders of this party. AOC, Mamdani, people like this, the younger people who are talking like regular people. They're not trying to come up with some slogan or some talking point. Chuck Schumer didn't even endorse the only Democratic candidate for the mayor of New York, the town he is from. He's a senator representing New York City and New York State, but so is AOC. She's not, the city. She rallied with him. I played a clip of that last week. It was overwhelmingly energetic, and about 15,000 people showed up. Go listen to my show last week, and you can hear that clip. It's mind-blowing. And only after that happened did Hakeem Jeffries finally endorse the Democratic candidate. So these guys are not the leadership of the Democratic Party. I'm sorry. They are not. They are not leading, they're following. As is the Republican Party, who started to use the word affordability. So even Trump on Wednesday said, we're the party of affordability. We understand the affordability. What is it again? Affordability. What is it again? And then the next day he says, I don't want to hear about affordability. I don't want to hear about it. That's where they're going. He is the leader of the Republican Party because nobody else will pick up the mantle and lead, except possibly now Marjorie Taylor Greene, who sounds like a Democrat to me. Mind-blowing. There are some things I want to remind you of. A lot of Donald Trump's reign depends on Vladimir Putin, who is collapsing. The 16th oil refinery was blown to smithereens in Moscow within the last couple days. The inside the Kremlin is crumbling. so many generals being arrested because Putin and his FSB does not, which used to be the KGB, it's now the FSB, and Putin, was ex-KGB, so it's pretty much him against his own military now. He's scared to death of his own military, and more of the oligarchs have fallen out of windows, but are also striking back. He's pushed Lavrov, his number 2 basically guy, out of the Kremlin. Lavrov has disappeared. I wonder if he's laying somewhere on a sidewalk beneath a 13th story window. It's really falling apart in Russia. And that means it's going to fall apart for Donald Trump. If you remember, is something going on inside the Pentagon that is on our side? How did that leak from Signalgate back on March 15th? How did that happen? How did a journalist get invited into a top secret chat on Signal, the chat app, whatever? Somebody made that happen. Somebody within the Pentagon made that happen. And now the Pentagon has shifted its authority about what happens with Ukraine and Russia from the Pentagon itself to U.S. European Command of NATO. I talked about that a couple weeks ago. It is very interesting. And all you see Pete Hegseth do is show up at a stupid Fox News Charlie Kirk Memorial Patriot Award. Some absolute BS. Pete Hegseth shows up there in a tuxedo. He's supposedly supposed to be the Secretary of Defense. He's obviously drunk. He's slurring through a really bad joke that nobody's laughing at. Does he even realize that he no longer has any authority on what happens with Ukraine? It was his second-hand guy, Colby, I think was his name. And again, for details, go back in time and listen to a couple of my last episodes. He's the guy who called the ship that was sending U.S. military weapons to Ukraine this last spring. And he tried to turn that shipment around. But somebody in the Pentagon said, no, you keep that shipment going. Okay, taking away the authority of that guy, Pete Hegseth, I don't think ever knows what's going on. Well, now that guy and Pete Hegseth have lost their authority, and that's why you saw Ukraine strike deep into Russia, including blowing up a refinery in Moscow. Many more. 16th oil refinery in the last couple months. And this authority, the news came out about this authority changing just a couple of weeks ago, and Ukraine has just been sending drones and missiles deeper and deeper into Russia ever since. So it is changing the war. It is speeding up the process of Russia losing this war. And when the Kremlin comes down, so does Donald Trump. Anyways, this is still not the fun part, right? MSNBC talking about especially Mikey Sherrill, the woman running for the gubernatorial run in New Jersey against the Trump-backed, I don't give a fuck what his name is, guy. And MSNBC was saying it's really tightening up. I don't know if it'll be a miracle if she can pull this out at this point. A couple weeks ago, it looked like she was going to win handily, but now it's really tightening up. No, she won handily. I think by 13 points, double digits, as did the gubernatorial Democrat in Virginia, Abigail Spanberger. She won by at least 13 points, something like that. Mamdani won overwhelmingly. Prop 50 in California won by a 2-1 margin. I got something like 63% of the vote. That was a 90-day campaign. It wasn't even announced that they were going to try and do this until 90 days beforehand. Gavin Newsom did a great job of gathering a great team and putting together great messaging and made that more than successful. This is not a reflection of the leadership of the Democratic Party. It's a reflection of the voters of America, you and me. And maybe the new Democratic Party, where the leadership should be shifting to somebody other than Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer. Nancy Pelosi apparently has decided, after this election, she's done her job. She wanted to retire years ago, but then Trump got back in and she's like, okay, I need to help out longer. Well, now she apparently thinks, okay, we're over the hurdle. I'm retiring. Please, Chuck Schumer, take her example. You fucking, I don't know why Chuck Schumer cannot take the hint. But Andrew Cuomo, wow, yeah, I mean, I really think that I lost by double digits because the constituency did not have enough time to grasp that I have now grasped the fact that I should not have grasped the breast and buttock of my staffers. I used to have different terms for both of those body parts, but I have now been informed, as I have been educated on the proper terms for buttocks and breast. I also have learned the proper meaning of the term all up in that, and I now realize I should not have gotten all up in that. And that's why I believe I have lost. Okay. Wow, he's learned a great lesson, right? Can you believe this guy was even running? And Chuck Schumer apparently was pulling for him. Because Chuck Schumer's working for corporations, big money donors. Seems a little bit like maybe Hakeem Jeffries is too, but not AOC. If you listened last week, AOC did this incredible moment, and that's the only after that moment did Hakeem Jeffries finally endorse Mamdani. I also wanted to point out that this week, I think, is really an opportunity to take a break from all of this. It really feels like we have achieved so much. All of us, you, have achieved so much in the last few months, many months, but especially leading up to this incredible election with these incredible results. And we need to take some time to celebrate the results of Tuesday's elections. For one thing, I watched some movies, and I've discovered a couple new TV shows, and I've actually taken some downtime to watch them. A couple weeks ago, I watched Red October, and I thought it was funny. You have Sean Connery, who's Scottish. I'm Sean Connery. And one of my favorite lines is he's talking to his comrades on the submarine. And he's saying, you know, the whole thing is that they're stealth. So America will not hear us when we sit outside of their largest cities and listen to their rock and roll. They will not even hear that we are there. And the silly Americans will watch this film thinking that I, with my Scottish accent, is a Russian person. And all of the racist Americans would believe that I was a Japanese person if I merely picked up the phone and answered, "Hello." That is America, and we will bring it down, comrades. Yes, it was fun to watch Red October. So many things going on that are going in the right direction suddenly. It seems suddenly. Cannon, the judge in Florida, is it Aileen Cannon was her name? If you remember, a year ago, she was withholding information of the Jack Smith investigations. She has been ordered to release the second version or second half of the Jack Smith investigation, which is the Mar-a-Lago documents case. What's going to be happening with that in the next couple of weeks? Not to mention a new story. Republicans were told, apparently by the DOJ, that the Epstein files are way worse for Donald Trump than they originally thought. And what's even more interesting than that, because we already knew that, is the fact that that got leaked out. David Schuster, I think, is talking about it. But now a lot of people are talking about it. It's got let out to journalists, American journalists, and independent journalists who are actually reporting on it. Things are coming to a head with the Epstein files. A lot has changed this week. It really has. The energy has changed. And we need to shift ourselves to be able to bask in this new energy. And we'll talk about that after we take a short break. You're listening to A Satellite View. We'll be right back. Satellite View. Find our website, satelliteviewpodcast.com. Sign up to be on our emailer. And find us on YouTube. And hit subscribe. It's free. If you go to YouTube and you search for Satellite View Podcast, you'll find our YouTube channel. Oh, you can also follow me on Instagram, @Todd Mikkelson. And on Blue Sky. And on Twitter, although I don't do much on Twitter anymore. Keep forgetting to say all that kind of stuff. Now, I want to touch on a couple other things before we get into how we bask in this new energy. The redistricting thing. Now, California is in reaction to Texas redistricting. Texas redistrict gerrymandered is the term we use because it's in the best interest of one party or the other. It's wrong. Most people hate it. Democrats have been pushing to have independent councils do the drawing of the districts. Republicans are always trying to take the power for themselves because they know they can't win. For decades, they've known they can't win elections because their ideology is extremely unpopular in America and the world. It's all about power and money. Anyway, I got a little off in the weeds there for a moment. Texas redistricting, what they had to do was they had to weaken some strong GOP districts in order to strengthen some strong Democratic districts in favor of themselves. They were going off of the fake numbers, the false numbers that came out after the 2024 election, where the Hispanic vote supposedly went for Donald Trump. Now you got to ask yourself, in 2020, the Hispanic vote was more against Donald Trump than it was in 2016. 2016, it was plenty against him. It went even more against him in 2020. And then in 2025, this last week, it was even more against him than in 2020. So how can it be that a year ago in 2024, all of a sudden the Hispanic vote went in favor of Donald Trump? Not only a little bit more Donald Trump, but totally in favor of Donald Trump? How do you feel about that? Does that make sense to you? It doesn't make sense to me, but I'm not telling you how to feel. Go inside yourself. How do you feel about that? You know, the wave is going down, down, down for Hispanics voting for Donald Trump. And all of a sudden, there's a little needle point prick that goes way up over the top for a moment last November. And then it goes back down to the exact trajectory it was on before that small period of time where there's a big needle prick. Right? That makes no sense. So now the Republicans are scared to death that they've blown it in Texas because they were counting on these Hispanic people still moving toward the Republicans, and now they're realizing that's not true. It probably never was, but they now know it is not true. And now Texas might lose even more than they would have had they not messed with the lines. They might now lose these strong GOP districts that they felt like they could afford to peel off some Hispanic voters from, right? And throw them into different districts. Well, now those districts have lost voters, and the other districts have the voters they were counting on to vote for Republicans that they have now added to these strong Democratic districts. They see, oh no, they're not going to vote Republican. They're still going to vote Democratic. So Texas may have completely shot themselves in the foot, but California reacted anyway and will add 5 seats in favor of the Democrats, which means also losing 5 seats for the Republicans. That means a gain of 10 seats. And there are other states talking about doing this as well. All right? That's a big shift that we're discovering this week. Here's another thing that happened that nobody's talking about. I didn't write the guy's name down because, again, I don't care who these guys are, but a buddy of Elon Musk was put up back way last spring, early spring, late winter, in the earliest days of the Trump newest, whatever you want to call it, administration. I hate to call it that, but when Elon Musk and Donald Trump were buddies, and Donald Trump nominated this guy who was one of Musk's best buddies to be the head of NASA, the space agency, because he was going to throw a bunch of money toward Elon Musk and SpaceX if he was the head of NASA. When Elon Musk and Donald Trump got into their little tiff later on in the summertime, Donald Trump pulled that nomination, and that made Elon Musk even more mad at him. And that's what made Elon Musk say, Donald Trump is in the Epstein files, that's why he won't release them. Escalating their enemy-ness, their new relationship of being enemies. Well, right around the time of this election, Donald Trump has reinstated his nomination of that guy to be the head of NASA. Why? And where is Elon Musk? What's going on? Kamala Harris a couple weeks ago apologized at a forum, said it was a mistake for the White House to not invite Elon Musk to the EV, electric vehicle, day at the White House last year. Putting a message out to Elon Musk. Is Elon Musk talking to Kamala Harris? Kamala, you keep me out of prison. What would you like me to say? I can sign something if you want. If I could just keep out of prison and possibly maybe keep money. But even if I just stay, what's going on? His stuttering thing's gotten worse. Like his ketamine usage has gotten worse. Anyway, what else do we got? Trump is telling the states, like for instance here in Minnesota, vice president. But he's actually our governor. He's supposed to be vice president. Tim Walz set aside billions of dollars to feed kids. Now, of course, he also, and the Democratic legislature here in Minnesota, also passed legislation where kids get to have free breakfast and lunch in schools. Many other states have also set aside billions of dollars to keep people who are on SNAP benefits to be fed. And the Donald Trump regime is now demanding those states don't do that. The Trump regime is saying, stop feeding starving kids for like a second or third time here. They went against a court order to do so. And then the Supreme Court said, yeah, we're going to agree with Donald Trump instead of humanity. So the states stepped up. Not to mention a bunch of private citizens. And Donald Trump's trying to stop that as well. Making all the wrong moves. I don't want to hear about affordability. But we're the affordability party. But I don't want to hear about affordability. Okay, how do we bask in this energy? We have stayed strong and we need to keep staying strong. This week, it proved that when we stay strong and we stand up to this BS that these monsters are trying to purvey upon us, we win. We fight, we win. That's what Kamala said. She's not the one who invented that. It's true. And this week has proven that. So why am I so always hopeful and optimistic and positive about our future? It's because I know what I feel inside of myself. I ask you to go inside yourself and take an inventory of how you feel. Do you think Kamala Harris lost? You remember her campaign, and you remember Donald Trump's campaign. Do you think Donald Trump actually won that election? Or did something weird happen? How do you feel about that deep down inside yourself? Does it make sense, this whole Hispanic vote thing that I just explained? Does that make sense to you? How do you feel about that? Were numbers manipulated? Were votes manipulated? I don't feel like it was at all possible for Donald Trump to win that election. Nothing will change my feeling about that. But I ask you to go down inside yourself, deep inside yourself, and see how you feel about it. The reason I feel so hopeful and optimistic and positive all the time is because I know how I feel inside myself. I know who we are. I know who I am. And I'm not afraid. We will not give them our fear. AOC's with us. Kamala Harris is with us. Barack Obama's with us. Barack Obama, he said this week, we are being tested. And it's showing us that we have the power. We have been being tested by these fuckers for the last 10 months. And what have we proven? Have we passed the test? Yes. We have the power. We've proven it to ourselves that we have the power. On November 18th, the No King's Day, they're saying now more than 20 million Americans showed up for it. That's scaring the crap out of the darkness. That's scaring the crap out of these pieces of shit who are trying to scare us and who are trying to spread chaos. We're standing up against it and we are winning. I want to tell you a brief story. This is part of how you can go inside yourself and reflect upon how are you going to handle the energy around you? How are you going to handle life? There are two different people, each one of them in the exact same circumstance between their finances and their car, okay? Each one has $500 in the bank, and each one of them has a car that needs a $100 repair suddenly. One of these people is like, yes, I'm going to spend the $100 to fix my car because to me, my car means freedom. I can drive and get away from this town on the weekend, use my car to free myself and be free to do what I want to do with myself. The other person is like, wow, $100, that's 1/5 of all my money in the bank. I don't know if it's worth fixing my car. Which person do you want to be? I know my car's broken down, I can't go anywhere, but I need to keep my full $500 in the bank. The other person's like, it's $100 out of my $500. I can afford it. I'm going to fix my car so that I can maintain my freedom. Which person do you want to be? Which person have you been? I've been both at different points in my life. I've shifted back and forth between those two people numerous times in my life. Which person do you want to be? Optimistic or fatalistic? The darkness leaves when the light comes. Don't let the darkness rule you. I'm not trying to tell you what to do. Again, it's a question. What if we all ignore Donald Trump? Which we have this week. What if we all ignored Donald Trump and his regime and we all stayed happy and we all stayed kind to each other? Marjorie Taylor Greene sounds like a Democrat right now. She congratulated Nancy Pelosi on her career. She said, I don't agree with her politics, but she did a kick-ass job. She knew how to get things done. Nancy Pelosi was the most successful Speaker of the House in the history of the United States. She remains so today. She's also the only woman to ever be the Speaker of the House in the United States Congress. But that's not the reason that she was the best speaker. She was the best speaker on her first tenure that ended in 2014 or something like that. She became Speaker in 2007. And within 2 years, she was the most accomplished Speaker of the House in the history of the United States. And she announced her retirement after she saw the results of this election and realized that, okay, you guys got this. I'm going to go home and be with my husband now. I'm going to go home and live out the rest of my life the way I intended to a few years ago. I felt like I had to stick around because we were in an emergency situation. You, the people of America, have shown me we are no longer there. You got this. That's what Nancy Pelosi is saying by doing this. She's looking at you and me and saying, you guys got this. I'm going to leave. We got this. We got this. You and me. Last week, I said the GOP is terrified of you and me. They're terrified of everything, but the thing they're most terrified of is you and me. We are holding the line. We are staying strong. Look at who's panicking. This week, I'm not panicking, are you? Trump is. All of his people are. Mike Little Johnson is. Who's in a panic mode after this election on Tuesday? Keep your eye on who's in a panic mode, and it'll tell you a lot about what's going on. And that is why I am always so hopeful, optimistic, and positive. I was surprised that people got nervous about this election. I knew it was going to be a blowout. I didn't even know there were small seats like councilman or something like that in Georgia that also shifted to the Democratic side by double digits. Everywhere, it was a 100% clean sweep of a blue wave. Who's panicking about that? They couldn't manipulate this vote. There wasn't just one national race to concentrate on that Elon Musk could turn his Starlink on to change the votes in the machines. There were all these intricate smaller elections. He couldn't do that. It was an actual free and fair election, and the Democrats blew everybody out of the water. I knew that was going to happen. Did you? I think a lot of you knew that was going to happen too, because we've been paying attention to what's really going on as opposed to what we're being told is going on. And we're staying strong. We're not afraid. We show up. There's another big rally coming up on the 21st or 22nd. I think the 22nd of November. Let's see what the numbers are then. The 18th of October, was it? Yeah, October 8th. No King's Day scared the crap out of the Republicans. Let's keep scaring them. They can't scare us. Let's keep scaring them. You're doing a great job. I'm proud of you. Like Barack Obama said, we're being tested, and we're passing the test. We have the power. We have the power. For the first time in my lifetime, the people realize where the power is, and it is with them, us, the people, you and me. Let's stick together. We will get each other through this if we stick together. Take a little bit more time to celebrate these results of this last election. And have fun watching these clowns. Clowns are supposed to be funny, right? Well, they are right now. Let's have fun watching these clowns fail and panic and fail and make fools of themselves over and over on TV and elsewhere. All right? It's a breeze. It's not. It's horrific. But you know what I mean. So again, we're going to stick together. I'm going to stick with you every week on this show. Thank you so much for sticking with me. Thank you so much for being here this week. I will speak at you next week.
been listening to A Satellite View with Todd Mikkelson. Go to toddmikkelson.com for links and more information.